If your Hindutva derives out of feeding hate, feeding poison, feeding divisiveness, then I'm sorry, our paths will diverge. What is happening in Sandesh Khali? Are you seeing justice done to these women? Is anybody fighting for justice there? They are fighting for the votes. That's the biggest corruption. The ones who take it home, they at least can be fined by ED, IT, CBI and can go to jail. But the ones who corrupt the entire system are going to get away scot-free.
And the trolling that comes with it, how do you tackle that?
Can't do anything about it. It used to impact me earlier, but now I start feeling uneasy if I'm not getting trolled. Like, मैंने लगता है कुछ ज़्यादा ही अच्छा लिख दिया.
Hello and welcome to the Statesman Talk with me, Deepti J. Verma. Today we are being joined by Priyanka Chaturvedi, who is a Rajya Sabha MP from Shiv Sena UBT, which is the Uddhav Thackeray faction. She's been a columnist as well as had a brief stint with Rajya Sabha TV as an anchor. She joined the Congress for almost 10 years before joining the Shiv Sena under Uddhav Thackeray and has stayed with that part of the faction ever since. Thank you for joining us, Priyanka. Thank you so much. She's widely followed on social media and is a thorough Mumbaiker. Let's see what she has to tell us today. Priyanka, you were one of the bright young faces of Congress at one point. And from a national party to join a regional outfit like Shiv Sena, what made you, make that decision at that time?
I think there were two things that made me decide that this is what I'm going to do. One is that I come from Mumbai, like you said, a thorough Mumbaiker. My family continued to be in Mumbai while I pursued my politics on the national stage. And I used to be in Delhi very often.
So you discussed Maharashtra politics a lot while growing up?
Not really. I was majorly exposed to national politics. And of course, Maharashtra was something which we discussed because we were born and brought up in the city and the state. And the point was not my active interest in politics, because that was not my active interest area. I never thought I'd be in the political space, but circumstances led me there. And I stand here today, wherever I am today, is on the basis of I would say something that led from one thing to another.
Tell us a bit about it. How did you get into politics?
So, politics, again, like I said, was never in my horizon. I was 21 when I got married. I had two lovely children. I was working and I'd quit my job after my son was born, and then I started a boutique recruitment firm. However, what changed the course for me was the 26/11 terror attacks in Mumbai. Being a passionate Mumbaiker, I thought it was totally unimaginable, unthinkable that I don't participate in rehabilitating and helping out, reaching out to those families who had lost their loved ones in that attack. So we had reached out to a few families. There were women bloggers who got together, and I used to run a column. I used to run a blog rather, which was amongst the top 10 book review blogs at that time. So all the women bloggers got together and handheld a couple of families who had lost their loved ones, those who were not as economically empowered as perhaps those who lost their lives at the Oberoi or the Taj. And we handheld them for 1 year, and then Tata Trust took over. They realized all the cases that we were pursuing were genuine cases, and they took over.
Like an NGO.
Yeah, so it was not really an NGO, but with the intent of being something where we are just hand-holding the families. But that also, after that was done, I felt that my calling was now more towards being an active citizen, participant to my society, to my communities, and to my city. It began with that process. Just then, the Congress party came up with the Youth Congress idea, which Rahul Gandhi wanted to break down barriers of people coming into politics. And at the same time, we saw social media opening up. And social media was also breaking down barriers for leaders vis-a-vis. Yeah, it was a biggest platform for me to communicate with leadership, right? And that kind of absorbed me into how to be an active participant. So that is how one thing led to another. Became a part of the Youth Congress. And I must say, I did learn a lot in the initial years where I could have easily given up because it used to get tough at times. I remember there were times when they used to tell me that there's a rally, which, because I was in Mumbai, Northwest constituency was, the member of parliament at that time was Gurdas Kamath from the Congress party. Gurdas Kamath ji used to tell me, I have a meeting at 5 p.m. Why don't you come, see how things work, how do we involve people and engage people. And I used to reach sharp on time because 5 p.m. means 5 p.m. Then I realized that when they say 5 p.m., they're actually getting the crowds to come in, fill those benches. And then the leader comes at around 6:30, 7 p.m.
You were around? What age at this time?
I was 30.
Still
I had two children. I was 30, 31. I had two kids, and I had my daughter was just 2 years old at that point in time. But it kind of interested me. I could have easily dropped out, but I did not, because I felt that this is a line I want to see where I can go, and how much I can contribute. And that is where the intention to contribute began, though there was a lot of opposition from my family. Of course, choice of party was also a factor which was a cause of arguments in my house. But here I am.
And I think you joined the Shiv Sena at that time because you were unhappy with some
Yes.
there was some trolling that was going on.
No, there was no trolling. There was so there was a where we were talking about Mahila Nyay and reservation for women, empowering women, ensuring that we look after those women who have come into politics, right? So there's a Vishaka committee guideline, which everybody has, except for political parties. Except for political parties, we have decided a policy, so corporate companies should have it, smaller companies should have it. So there's no complaint mechanism. So there was an incident that happened 9 months prior to my switching parties. And in those 9 months, a lot of changes happened within the party. The general secretary in charge of the state, where something went wrong with me, he was moved. And he knew the entire situation, entire scenario. Some people were even suspended at that point in time. And as soon as we had new leadership come to that particular state, those people's suspension was revoked in 2019 elections. While in the middle of the election, those who were suspended from the Congress party were reinstated without letting me know. And I think that kind of disturbed me, because here I am fighting the cause for women. I'm talking about women should be coming into politics, blah, blah, blah. And there I'm standing at a point in time where I have to take this call, whether I continue being silent and say, okay, let me keep quiet, let the party finish off its, the priority that it has, the elections, and then take a call and address this issue, or I get them to address it now. And I think it became a point where I said, it has to be addressed now, because I will be disgusted with myself if I let this go. And as a mother of 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl, a man now, he's 21. But at that point in time, I was like, what is the message I sent to my 2 children? That it's okay to compromise and it's okay for a male to get away with this behavior. And that's why I took the call. I did. It came as a sudden surprise. It was not something which I had planned. I just first resigned. And at that point in time, of course, I did get calls from many people across the country, some from political parties as well. And Aditya was, because I was going back home, I was packing my bags and I was going to Mumbai. He said, why don't you work with us in Maharashtra? We are a party in Maharashtra, work with us.
It's a very hyper-masculine kind of party. Like, that's what traditionally thought of.
Yes.
So what's the women's space there?
Actually, the best part is, which not many people know, and that's a narrative which is built from the outside. But the Shiv Sena derives its power from women in the party. Right from their kitchen to self-help groups, etc. It derives. There's a very interesting book. I think it's called The Daredevils of Shiv Sena. It's about the women power and how women empower the entire political party. And again, as someone who wasn't really, of course, born and brought up in Mumbai, you know what Shiv Sena stands for and what Balasaheb Thackeray did for the city and the state, and how his word is so impactful and powerful that it can scare the living daylights of people if he chooses to do it.
When you were in college, he stood for something, and did you ever think that you were going to join his party at one point?
So I had this tremendous respect for him, in the sense that as a girl who's growing up in a city, a big city, there was impeccable law and order situation. I could be out at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., coming back home, absolutely safe and sound. No auto guy telling me, no, I can't take you home, and no auto guy acting smart with me.
You never thought of him as autocratic or...
No, I think his tendency was more towards discipline. That there has to be a sense of discipline, a sense of respect for where you come from, which country you belong to, and your dedication to that nation. That nation comes above your religion, nation comes above your caste identities. There's nothing above your nation. And that's the drive that drove him as well. And of course, his identity as a Maharashtrian. So, of course, when we were growing up, we did see, and it used to have an impact on our lives. So, it came as very natural. And obviously, Shiv Sena itself was in a sense of transition then. Shiv Sena had new leadership, Uddhavji had taken over, Aditya Thackeray was speaking about a lot of issues which I could totally connect with, especially Mumbai-related
more contemporary version.
Yes, with regards to education, with regards to, getting more women into this, not just political system, but creating more equal opportunities for women, then beach cleaning and plastic ban, etc. Those are things that he introduced to our policies, and he was actively engaged. And I do remember connecting with him on those points, saying that, what you're doing is fantastic. Health and nutrition was
She
something.
related to it at
Yeah,
that
so
time.
when he told me that, this is something you should look at, and I took it very seriously, and I thought this was the best opportunity for me, that instead of just resigning and, cursing my fate for not having tried harder enough, let me just give it a go. Let me not be a footnote in history.
Now the party split up. When people break from within a place, do they become more formidable as opponents because they know the way the party functions, they know all the inner, the inner talks, the inner secrets, they know. So do you think as opponents they become more dangerous?
I don't think so. It also depends on the capacity of the person who's breaking away, right? If the capacity is driven by powers outside of his control,
Okay.
by bigger powers who enjoy the fame, the money, the power, the agencies, and if you're just a puppet for them, then you're not formidable at all. That you've just been a convenient object who has been used for someone to reach their, whatever their end goal is. You were just a mean to reach that end goal. So not really formidable. Would have become formidable if went with cadre. And listen, Shiv Sena has not just split once. This was a massive split which came under the national limelight, of course, because it was sponsored by the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Devendra Fadnavis takes credit for it. Amit Shah ji, of course, he struts
There are a lot of
around like,
players,
oh my
yeah.
God, I'm the
Yeah.
modern day Chanakya, and I'm sorry, Chanakya must hate him for comparing himself to him, but I'll be very honest here. But anyway, so they were claiming that they were doing it. So of course, it was sponsored by them to reach their end goal, which was to come to power in Maharashtra through whichever means possible, or maybe to try and say that, okay, look, we have broken your party because you tried to break away from us. Anyway, that aside. Not formidable. If the cadre would have gone, we would have thought of it. And like I said, Shiv Sena has split earlier too. Raj Thackeray was one of those who split away from the party. At that point in time, everyone thought, collapse, collapse, collapse. So every time the word collapse is used around Shiv Sena, we regroup ourselves, more fervently and with a more motivated intent, and work harder to prove such splits, the ones who went away, prove them wrong. So that is one thing. And of course, because it was in a transition phase, there were many who aligned, many who were disaligned or disinclined to go with this new idea. So there are times when people move on, right?
Yeah, coming to that, like politicians move parties all the time, the ideologies change. What is so particularly wrong about this split? Like, if you tell our viewers, like, what is fundamentally wrong about splitting? Like, why can't they feel that they need to, like, move on or?
I'll tell you why. There are two reasons that were given. One, that we were moving away from the idea of what Balasaheb Thackeray ji is. Let me tell you, Mr. Eknath Shinde, who keeps talking about his ideology, he only rose in the party ranks and files after the passing away of Sri Balasaheb Thackeray.
Okay.
It's a myth that he's created, that he was close to him, he knew what was happening. It was Uddhav Thackeray ji who gave him the power in the organization, and post 2014 gave him his ministries. Of course, ticket is a natural, I'd say upward movement, that as a corporator you serve well, maybe we take a bet on you to become an MLA, from an MLA, maybe a member of parliament. But those opportunities that he got were at a time when Uddhav ji took charge. So that's such a lie to say. That is one wrong thing, that myth that was created. Second, that we're not happy that we're moving away from the Hindutva idea. So if you were not happy, you are not happy about this new alliance equations, you are not happy about splitting with the Bharatiya Janata Party, why did you stay on to take a position, take 3 important ministries and continue to stay on? You took 3 important roles. Your son was a member of parliament from the party. Right, so that's point 2. And you got a very important portfolio. Again, Urban Development Ministry usually stays with the Chief Minister. Still trusted and gave it to you. So again, we're not going about trust, distrust, etc. Just telling you the myth that has been created and the wrongs that have been done. And by the sheer use of might and money, a narrative has been given to the rest of the country which needs to be busted, which we have done effectively in Maharashtra. Now the third thing about Uddhav Thackeray ji not being available. That was the third thing. The only time Uddhav ji was not available was when he was going through 2 major surgeries, spinal surgeries. One surgery, he had just gone through a surgery. It did not go off as expected. And there's this golden hour. There's golden hour from people going totally paralytic to being able to recover. He had to undergo that surgery then. And he was, of course, because of his physiotherapy needs, etc., he was homebound. But he was never out of touch with anybody. And let's all not forget that he came to power at a time when COVID had struck the nation, the world.
Yeah.
Nobody knew how to handle it.
Exactly.
Maharashtra, if you look at all parameters, as much as we were
It's badly
criticized,
hit,
we saw targeting. Today, the WHO recognizes the Dharavi model. We were totally data, science, statistic driven. You heard stories of how people in Delhi lost their lives because of lack of oxygen, Uttar Pradesh, Haryana, and some other states. You also saw investigative journalism which showed numbers which were contrary to what were being reported by these states. You didn't hear a single such story coming from Maharashtra. Because we were driven by a medical team. We were driven by those who had experience, exposure, and we were driven by a past pandemic experience 100 years ago. We knew that something like this can happen and what are the measures that need to be taken. So we were following standards which were probably global in intent. Of course, the country would not understand that at that point of time because Narendra Modi ji was trying to give a totally different idea of how to handle COVID, which was thali bajao, diya jalao, and all that kind of ideas, which I'm not getting into. I'm just trying to say it was driven by a leadership who many people mocked, did not acknowledge, but he drove it with an intent of being a true Mumbaiker, true Maharashtrian.
So where do you think he's gone wrong? Like, do you think he didn't market himself enough, or like as a leader? Like, what do you think is the one thing that's gone wrong in his
I think, when you are, I wouldn't say he went wrong anywhere.
Okay.
Because his wrongs
he
would
was
probably
wrong.
I would say, if you would say he has done some wrong, if trusting somebody is doing wrong, then I don't know what is right. If you say that giving someone responsibility is wrong, then I honestly don't know what is right. And at a time when you are at, you have changed political parties and formed a new alliance. You yourself are in charge. You expect the best of your people to support you, to motivate you. If he hoped that that would come from his cabinet and his MLAs, if that is wrong,
okay, so
then what is
moving away
right?
from BJP is one thing, but there are certain things which were always, like Shiv Sena was always known for, like, they were a Hindutva aligned, the ideology was. Now aligning with some, like Congress in the indie bloc. Do you think that chemistry works? Do you think it's good for the party?
Okay, India. So
The
it's
India
the
alliance,
India
yeah.
bloc, yeah. It's the India bloc. So, okay, one thing, our Hindutva, if you look at whatever we have spoken, and I spoke to you about Vanya Hindu Hriday Samrat, Balasaheb Thackeray ji, where he said your nation comes above everything. Not your religious identities, not your state identities, not your caste identities. Take pride in them, but don't peg them above your nationality and where you come from. Take pride in that fact. When you see a nation which is becoming so driven by hate, and today if there are 10 families which have unemployed kids at home, even if we look by the majoritarian principle, 8 of those who are going unemployed are Hindus. 3 of them could be minorities, OBC, SC, ST, etc.
Unemployment hits everyone
2 of them, I'm
equally,
sorry,
yeah.
8 and 10. 2, otherwise I'll be trolled for my math now. So you have to look at it from a point where your devotion, your faith and your belief is something you carry in your heart. Carry with a sense of pride. But in your mind, you are working towards creating empowerment.
common goal.
So his Hindutva is very clear. He said it on multiple platforms. Dil mein Ram, haath mein kam.
Okay.
Our agenda cannot become. And what were Bhagwan Sri Ram's principles? He left Mata Sita because that is what he was expected for his duty. That is what was expected of the king at that point in time. So was he wrong? Was he right? We can keep debating it till eternity.
Yeah.
But he did what he believed was his principle. Right now, Uddhavji says, my principle is to see no unhappy face in my state, in my country. And any one unhappy family coming from whichever part of the country is an unhappy Indian, irrespective of his religion. So this is our Hindutva. Okay. If your Hindutva derives out of feeding hate, feeding poison, feeding divisiveness, then I'm sorry, our paths will diverge. And now coming to India Alliance. When we were in Maharashtra, Balasaheb Thackeray ji was very clear that when he comes to power, whenever he comes to power, he would change the name of Aurangabad to Chhatrapati Sambhajinagar. Congress party was opposed to the idea. Opposed. NCP opposed to the idea. We did it. We did it in the government with them. Osmanabad was changed to Dharashiv. Again, Bala Sahib Thackerayji's belief.
Okay.
We changed it. We helped,
So you're
those
holding your own identity with
ancient
them.
temples. There were so many ancient temples and ruins in Maharashtra. We allocated funds for it. We became the first political party as soon as a Supreme Court judgment came in that went as a government, as a chief minister, he went to Ramlalla temple, took a darshan, and became the first political party to donate funds towards a big grand Ram temple. We don't want to talk about it because it's not part of our politics. It's part of our faith and our belief system. This doesn't help me add votes. I'm not saying it from that point. It's not my political perspective. It's not Shiv Sena's political perspective. It's a personal faith-driven perspective. So if you start to use it for your politics, our paths are going to diverge. I didn't hear Congress coming and telling us, hey, listen, you cannot donate to them. Hey, listen, you can't do this.
Okay.
Neither did NCP. Now, in the larger scheme of things, if you're identifying common goals, which is our democracy, which is our constitution, which is ensuring equality for all, which is talking about inclusive India, I don't think we are misaligned to being a great Indian and taking India towards greater heights.
How do you predict their performance to be in the upcoming Lok Sabha elections?
I'm only hoping it would be, something that we will do exceedingly well, and where we will. Those believers who think that Mr. Modi will cross above 400, we're going to give them a shock of their life on the 4th of June.
So you don't think that's a possibility at all?
And I would say I wouldn't be surprised if we form the government too.
Okay. And but Maharashtra, the 22 seats that you are contesting
Maharashtra, we are very confident because I'll tell you why we are confident. Because we have, as soon as our party split, Uddhavji and Adityaji went across the length and breadth of the state. There was a huge amount of feeling that he was wronged. A man who did well for the state during the toughest period of India's, times, world's times, but India more so because it's the most populated country in the world, for having seen through one of the biggest pandemic. And he was accused of being non-experienced, etc. He managed to do it. And yet being backstabbed at a time when he was unwell. That was a huge emotion sentiment around it. The day he resigned also, of course, Congress and NCP said, he should have consulted us. But he felt his moral duty, when his own party has split, was not to hold on to that reign of power, was to give it up and fight afresh, fight for his party, rebuild his party, fight to rebuild his position, and fight to recreate a narrative which he strongly believes in. And he took it on. See, it becomes very easy when you're living in
But the entire argument first started about the CM-ship, right? And, in the time of Bala Sahib Thackerayji, they were always considered to be more like the backseat drivers or the kingmakers. So why was there so much importance attached to the post?
No. A post was when you see they were the backroom people who would decide, who would take a call. Did not mean that they did not have a Shiv Sena chief minister.
Okay.
They had a Shiv Sena chief minister.
And not for themselves always.
It was not for them, but there were new circumstances that arose. So a party which for 25 years, you can imagine our faith and commitment in the alliance too, that when BJP, most of the time we were in power with them when they were not in power, right? We were in alliance with them when they were not in power.
Natural allies.
You can call it natural allies, which went unnatural simply because of the direction BJP has taken. Because if you look at the Atal Bihari Vajpayee ji's, BJP to what you see of the BJP right now, I'm sure many committed BJP voters also feel the difference. They may not say it, they may not want to talk about it, but I'm sure even within the RSS, there's a sense of unease with the way BJP is portraying itself. Anyway, that's not my call to take. It's their problem, not mine. But having said that, at a time where you're forging new alliances, you're also facing a new, ally versus, as well as a new opponent. An opponent who was your partner and suddenly is now speaking against you. So those are times when you regroup, regather, and re-energize yourself with the cadre which is loyal to you. Unfortunately, the loyalty, some of them sold off their loyalty to get these perks of power, be called traitors all their life, but have earned the money for it, right? And have earned some months of position for it. So that's their call. But he became the chief minister not because he wanted to become one, because New Alliance made him feel that this was a time when, whether it was coming from the Congress, whether from the NCP, where they believed that they'd be able to lend support to someone who is in the thick of things, who runs the organization.
And how important is it to reclaim the symbol of the party for the morale of the cadres, you say?
No, I tell you, we contested a by-election on a new symbol. And within 2 hours of the symbol, Mashal being allotted to us, at that time we were still in the Supreme Court and the matter is still sub judice. Mashal was given to us. I can't even tell you, it was totally a people-driven movement that within 2 hours, entire state of Maharashtra knew what our symbol was. When we ran a by-election, along with the new allies that we have, we won with a bigger margin than what the earlier MLA had won. It was his wife who contested the election. He passed away, unfortunately. He was a Shiv Sena. His wife contested the election, and there were no roadblocks.
So there's no confusion in the
there could be a feeling because when a voter goes, especially
so you think it can still
we continue to reiterate our symbol all the time. So I don't think while we're fighting that fight, the fight has not stopped. So there are two fights we're fighting. That is what I was coming to. When there is a very majoritarian idea of how a political party should run, and when you're seeing so much concentration of power, it becomes very easy to cave in and continue to live the comfortable life. You say, okay, why should I take panga? Why should I have ED coming to my house every day, IT coming to my house every day, fighting legal battles and continuing and living under the fear that I'll
get invited to join the party?
Yes, it's the easiest, no? Oh, look, you've got power. Oh, look, you've got no ED, IT, CBI. There was one...
Do you think they use the agencies
100%, 100%. Enough investigation stories have shown. Just today, Mr. Ajit Pawar and his wife have got a clean sheet from ED. So out of 25 MLAs that were leaders that went from opposition parties to the BJP, 23 of them have got a clean sheet. What does it speak of the role of agencies? So my point was this. It could have become very easy for him. Okay, listen, let's be friends again. Let's be, buddies again, and let's natural allies and whatever, and go back. He chose a path where he said, no.
Which is more difficult.
Which is difficult, where he say, I have to stand up for some principles. If everyone gives up on their principles, what are we standing here for? So that is the fight. Who will speak up for the unemployed? Who will speak for the divisiveness that we're seeing? Who will speak up for the basic rights that are being trampled upon? Today, when two women from Manipur are paraded naked and that particular video comes out a month later, imagine if everyone is on one side. The country stays silent over those rapes. When a Bilkis Banu forget her religion for 2 minutes, a woman who steadfastly fought her fight.
But sir,
and she got, 1 second, I'll have to complete because I've become very passionate about this.
Yeah.
She gets her rapist convicted. And they let go. They let go free on 26th January, India's Republic Day. Who's speaking for them?
But when such cases happen in Bengal, is your party taking a stand against that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. My point is just this. And I will start from Balasaheb Thackerayji's time. Forget Balasaheb Thackerayji for a minute here. We'll leave him here. Let's go to Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj's time. And that is the Sanskriti and the Sanskar of Maharashtra.
Civilization,
Maharashtra. I'll specify on Maharashtra, and that is why any wrongdoing on any woman across religion, across anything. So Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, whichever battle he won against the Mughals, he also had a choice that what Mughals did to Hindu women, he could have also done it. Instead, he chose that if anyone from my party or my team chooses to behave badly with a woman, I'll cut off their necks. I won't even think twice. So that's the idea that Maharashtra has moved forward with. And Balasaheb Thackerayji was one of those. I remember there was one case where, because I was in opposition there, and maybe I was not even in politics, but there was a case that had come up where a Shiv Sena MLA was accused of doing something wrong with a woman. He was immediately suspended from the party, and he was not even given a ticket. So we don't know where he is now. But at that point in time, for him to not stand by him. And then I see a politics where, where Brij Bhushan Singh hangs around happily and nobody cares about those women wrestlers who were who were a sense of pride for the Prime Minister at one point.
The courts are also taking their own course.
No, what are they? Yeah. What is the court doing? There was a Delhi police charge sheet against Brij Bhushan Singh. Delhi police charge sheet saying that yes, inappropriate behavior has happened. A political party should have taken a stance. So my point is, whether it's Sandesh Khali, whether it is Delhi, whether
Across
it is whichever
board.
part of the country, we will speak up. Because for us, the priority is not our politics. Unfortunately for BJP, the priority is their politics. Did you hear a Smriti Irani during the women wrestlers problem? Did you hear Smriti Irani speak a word till the Prime Minister had not broken his silence on the Manipur women? Did you have a visit Manipur? The NCW chief has the audacity when Nitish Kumar, who is now on their side, when Nitish Kumar made some very inappropriate, said some very inappropriate things on the floor of the house in Patna. She had the audacity. She's an NCW chairperson. She has more power, more authority than a member of parliament, a mere member of parliament of the opposition. To tag me, to tag Priyanka Gandhi Vadra, who's not even an MP, who's a leader in a Congress party,
Yeah.
and perhaps Atishi Marlena, who's a minister in the Arvind Kejriwal.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, don't you have a comment on this? Ma'am, what happens to your mouth? As an NCW chairperson to take action, what happens to your mouth? When things go wrong in BJP governed states, that's their politics. Again, that's why I'm repeating. For us, it's a matter of belief. For them, it's a matter of their politics. What is happening in Sandesh Khali? Are you seeing justice done to these women? Is anybody fighting for justice there? They're fighting for the votes.
Yeah.
And that is the truth. That is the only truth.
And what's the ground sentiment in Maharashtra today about BJP?
Oh, it's a pretty positive for the Mahavikas Agadi and pretty negative for the BJP.
Okay.
And I'm very confident simply because if you actually look at it, I'm talking to you today, and 2 days from now, we'll have the second phase of elections. They still haven't decided on their candidates from Mumbai. They haven't decided on the seats, who's contesting where. The BJP candidates don't want to contest against our candidates.
Okay.
There's unease over whether they should contest, not contest. They're pushing MLAs to contest as MPs. So there's a lot of, I would say, disorder in their ranks and files. While we are very clear, we've declared our candidates. We know who's contesting. We're barring 2, which the Congress party has been asked to declare their candidates.
The Congress party recently has also come into the news for their view on wealth creators and you know the redistribution of wealth. Even Sam Pitroda's interview recently. What's your view on that?
Okay, so let's begin with this. Sam Pitroda is an American. He may be an Indian, he left India.
He's
whatever.
very close to the Congress.
No,
ranks,
again,
yeah.
let me, because since you asked me for my view, he's an American. He has some point of view. He could be a congressman. He has a point of view. BJP, many people, many point of view.
But even in their manifesto, it's saying.
No, have you read their manifesto?
The Congress manifesto
Have you read
says
the
that they
what?
want to believe.
No.
They want
No.
to.
In fact, I'm sorry, I forgot I got a special printout of the manifesto because I'm having a political debate after this.
Okay.
Where I'm carrying that manifesto. So I read the page 6, 7, which talks about social justice.
Yeah.
Page 6 and 7 says, yes, we will try and understand who is being left out of the pyramid. Listen, you are earning 100. I'm not grudging you that. But Priyanka Chaturvedi is earning 10. I need to understand there has to be a middle ground, right? How do we raise Priyanka Chaturvedi, who's getting 10, to maybe a 40?
But Rahul Gandhi said that he'll give money to the women.
There was some headline that came in the papers. And that headline, for example, I'll tell you, there was one headline which came, and which Aditya ji and I laugh about it now, about something where they equated Aditya ji, they tried to, try to defame him in a way, because at that point in time, there was a huge propaganda going against one actor who had committed suicide.
Yeah.
They tried to make it sound like a murder.
Yeah.
So there were very funny headlines coming out about Aditya ji every second day.
A lot of podcasts about him.
Forget a podcast. There was
Yeah.
one headline of some
Yeah.
local newspaper, which perhaps is a Bharatiya Janata Party run funded newspaper, with that headline. And that headline made a lot of news. Everyone's laughing about it and talking about it. Little do people realize that sometimes the headlines don't match the story. Headlines sensationalize. So, okay, so sometimes someone has sensationalized the headline. Does that mean that's his view? Does that mean, okay.
No, he
now
said
forget-
in his speech.
No,
Yeah.
again, what has he said? Again, I go back to you.
Yeah.
He is saying we need to understand what the inequalities are.
What about the
okay,
wealth
when I say
distribution?
I'm mapping the wealth, okay,
Yeah.
mapping the wealth. So when he maps my wealth, he sees Priyanka is earning 10 rupees. He's mapping your wealth. The government is mapping your wealth. You're earning 100 rupees. What does this mapping do? Does it mean मैं इसके 100 रुपए में से 90 रुपए प्रियंका चतुर्वेदी को देती हूँ equality लाने के लिए? Or I'll take 30 rupees from her and give it to her. Listen, you're already paying taxes.
Yeah.
But those taxes that you have paid to the government, how do I use that money that you've given to me, to ensure
So it'll come out
Priyanka's
of
life
that
becomes
money.
better?
Yeah.
you're redirecting welfare funds to those who genuinely need it. Do you know we don't have the census data? How is Prime Minister today applying these welfare schemes without an up-to-date census data?
Shouldn't it be dependent on the economic background rather
Do
than
you have the
caste,
data?
the
How?
caste
Okay, now
census?
economic background. Do you know? Again, that also comes through census data. Do you know when did we have our last census, and on what basis are we
But
still
wasn't
continuing?
Congress against the caste census at one point?
Forget the caste census. Yeah, I'm just talking about census, which also tells you about the economic capacity of every family. When was the census last done? And I ask you a question simply because women's reservation also depends on that. Census
been
was last
declared.
done in 2011.
Okay.
It is done every decade. 2022 did not happen because of COVID reasons. We are sitting in 24, no census. So what are we mapping our people? You know, there have been increases in money people have earned. There has been decrease. Every data, because data is not easily available in India anymore. Labor data, unemployment data, economic backwardness, etc. That data is not. What are we saying? Let there be transparent data for the ability for reforms. The tax that you're paying, the 100 rupees, means 30 rupees that you're paying perhaps, or 40 rupees that you're paying. At least redirect it in a way that it helps actually the poor, benefits the poor who needs it, right? Irrespective of their caste and religious identities. This is my belief.
Okay.
If anyone's saying otherwise, then of course, if we are in government with them, we are going to oppose it. So you're saying that Congress has some idea, which Sam Pitroda sitting in America is, every 5 years, ANI and PTI go to him, they take his interview, they catch on to, and next they are going to go to his Manishankar Iyer. 100%. Don't you think we all know the game? And then it continues to play a role. How does it work? It can't work.
What about the prime ministerial candidate? Who do you think, are there any names that come up? Well,
I would say that for political parties, alliances to come together and have enough phases to take on that responsibility and challenge is a big win for this nation. And who also understand they are sitting chief ministers of various states. Prime Minister Modi also was a sitting chief minister of a state.
so it could be anyone, you're saying.
Anyone who is capable and who's come by the will of the members of parliament who are selected by the people.
Don't you think it would be in their favor to declare somebody so that, because
No.
they are fighting on the face
So
of
there
Modi?
are two formats of democracy the world follows. There's the presidential model and there's the UK parliamentary model. We have adopted the UK parliamentary model. UK parliamentary model, we are either moving towards presidential elections like US, where we declare a candidate and then take a call who's winning. Then we have primaries, we have everything. Then perhaps Mr. Narendra Modi ji won't be able to win the primaries, if that was the case.
You think
Maybe
so?
Rahul Gandhi ji also would not have
Yeah.
been able to win the primaries.
Yeah.
That's up for people. That's up for their political party. That's for their political members, party members. Our political parties don't function as per American style of democracy. Neither are they functioning as per UK style of democracy also. But however, the system is that first MPs are elected, and the MPs, the party which gets the maximum number of MPs, if they get a single party majority, great, those MPs will sit and decide who their party leadership, whoever their prime minister would be. If they're coming in alliance, they will all sit together and decide who their prime minister would be. It is unfortunate that NDA, which is an alliance of 38 parties, we are still lesser. None of those 38 parties can aspire, hope, or believe that their party leader can also become the prime minister of this country one day.
Because they'll go with what's working, right? So
No,
far, it's
how do
been
you know?
working.
Okay, how is it working?
He's been winning.
Okay,
He's won.
no, winning
Yeah.
is one thing.
Yeah.
As Indians, we get so empowered, enamored by the idea of, oh, he's winning. That's why he's the best idea for this nation. Let's look at unemployment data. Let's look at inflation data. Let's look at the women's safety record. Let's look at the corruption record. And, many people say, oh, the corruption charges don't stick. But listen, what is electoral bonds? What was electoral bonds? You're clearly seeing a pattern.
But then money was anyway going to political parties. At least now we have data.
Allow me
Yeah.
to complete. Yeah, you have data. Data also linking that as soon as an ED official goes to a particular corporate house, the corporate house donates funds to the BJP. 11,500 crores since 2018 when it was introduced till date. 6,500, 55% of the funds have gone to the BJP. The rest have had to do within whatever that amount is. They try to play a very smart game by saying, oh, look, we have so much MP strength.
Representation, yeah.
No, it doesn't work like that. Anyone who is in trouble has funded them. Anybody who wants contracts has worked with them. If this is not corruption, and I'll tell you why this is corruption. This may not be Modi is taking it home corruption. And the second part I will come to is how political parties, political opponents who are accused of corruption, like 70,000 crores scam, other scam, etc., are now in the the cleaner version, as they've got out of the corrupt parties hold, opposition hold, and are now with Mr. Narendra Modi. So now they are all doing Viksit Bharat, part of the Viksit Bharat. Right? There are two types of models of corruption. Why I call it corruption? Where you're corrupting the entire democracy, corrupting the entire constitution, to favor just one political party, to make it larger, to make it bigger, and to not give a level playing field to its opposition. That's the biggest corruption. The ones who take it home, they at least can be fined by ED, IT, CBI and can go to jail. But the ones who corrupt the entire system of how a nation runs are going to get away scot-free. Under the garb of, oh look, he is popular. Oh look, koi nahi takkar mein, kyun pade ho chakkar mein? Or, who's your prime minister? Don't justify those. It's high time people use their minds and say, are we richer? Have our incomes increased? Have our families felt more, safer? So those are questions that need to be asked. Has our per capita income increased? Has my household expenses reduced? Those are questions that really would need to be asked today. Nobody is asking the question. We are a nation of 140 crore people. 80 crore are being given rations? Tell me, how do you justify it? I would rather, when I vote for my Prime Minister, give me a job, I'll figure my food. And I will choose the food I want to eat. And now you will not decide chicken khaun ya main fish khaun. Ya main vegetarian khaun. I'm a pure vegetarian, let me say this. I don't even have eggs.
Yeah.
But the point is, I'm not going to come and tell you what should be on your plate. So 80 crore people in this country are managing their lives, not because of jobs, but because you're giving them 6 kg ration. Shouldn't we tax-paying people also understand what's happening, really? Rather than saying, we actually start to justify ourselves. That he's popular, he's good for my nation, we need an authoritarian, we need a strong leader, we need someone who can take the nation along. Ultimately, if you look at the figures, they've not gone beyond 43-44% as a country in terms of vote share.
From your Twitter timeline, we have seen that, there's been a constant check on Adani and, his wealth and his role, the government's role in his wealth that you've been raising.
Right.
Tell us about that. What do you think?
So listen, let me be very clear. I come from the city of Mumbai, Maharashtra. We understand business. We understand the importance of wealth creators.
Yeah.
We understand how they provide employment. My question is, and I come from that perspective, that we should be creating many more wealth creators rather than creating monopolies. Concentrating of power, concentration of wealth in a nation like India doesn't work. And there were 2-3 concerns even before, people tell me, oh, it looks like an agenda. It's not an agenda. It's a concern. Before the Hindenburg report came, we saw how Mumbai airport was taken over overnight. Again, the ED, CBI agencies came into play. Rato Rat, the airport is given over to somebody who has no experience handling the airport. And these are one of the most busiest airports of the world. Forget my country. It's the topmost busiest airport in my country. But this airport is one of the busiest in the world. Does he have the experience? Does he have the exposure? Does he have the bandwidth? And we did see a lot of mess up even in that. Having said that, so there were questions where you have multiplied your wealth multiple times over. Of course, आप करोड़पति बनो, अरबपति बनो, दुनिया भर के सबसे अमीर आदमी बनो. सबसे ज़्यादा गर्व मुझे होगा कि एक देसी बना. But my question then is, are you killing someone else's opportunity to create one for yourself? So an airport was well run, Mumbai airport, run by GVK Group.
Yeah.
GVK Group goes wrong in some parts. Even he is a wealth creator. Would you say GVK is not a wealth creator? GVK is also a wealth creator, doing phenomenally well in other spaces. But again, it was taken over for whatever reason. I'm not going to argue about that. But focusing, when you go to Australia, when Prime Minister Modi goes to Australia, he takes him along, they sign a contract, a deal. And that was opposed by even the Civil Society of Australia about mining. My point was that why are we showing favoritism?
Okay.
Countries should have equal opportunities. Let there be multiple wealth creators. Let our policies not be focused on, God forbid, India goes through a bad time, which I don't see it happening because India is on a good growth trajectory. But God forbid, we like COVID struck, we pulled through. Another big tragedy strikes. We have focused all our, critical infrastructure, critical national assets to one person or one group, which again is being reported for having dubiously manipulated stock prices in the stock market. Now, let's say you are a casual investor in the stock market.
Yeah.
And you come in and everybody tells you, Adani mein invest karo, Adani mein invest karo, fastest growing stock. But who are the one pumping that Adani stock? There's some offshore investors who are focusing 95% of that offshore money is coming to these Adani stocks. So any basic person of commerce or
Would
even
at least ask questions.
will ask questions. What am I doing? Am I just accusing? Or am I saying these? And if you go through my Twitter timeline, since you mentioned my Twitter timeline, none of my tweets are minus the report or minus a story, minus an investigative story. And I don't do this out of attacking a wealth creator. I do this for the love of my nation. My nation should have multiple wealth creators. My nation should have multiple options of students or youngsters looking for jobs. My nation should not be looking at one man. My nation should be looking at multiple success stories. I totally respect his growth story. But if it comes with some favors, it comes with some support, then I feel bad for those who could have also got that equal opportunity and been able to do it.
Do you, as a woman, and somebody who's had to have, you're a mother, the work-life balance, do you ever regret joining politics, considering you say that you were an accidental politician?
Not at all. I don't regret it one bit, simply because the faith system that I believe in. And I come from a city of Mumbai, and I must share this with you. Mumbai does not really have any caste identities. They don't even care about the religion. They're all struggling their struggle to become somebodies in a city like Mumbai.
It's truly cosmopolitan.
It's a dream city.
Yeah.
It's known as a city where your dreams come true. So all of us are fighters, all of us are strugglers, all of us become success stories in our own spaces, minus our caste identity. So we don't reduce ourselves to our caste identities or religious identities. So I came from a city like that. And then I started to, when I got into politics, I started to understand. Of course, I did know what my caste is, but I did not know where it stands in a whole lot of schemes for other parts of the country. It gave me quite an awakening. And I'm being very honest here. Many people think you're born with this knowledge. No, I learned through experience that I come from a position of privilege. And if I come from a position of privilege, how do I ensure that those who are less privileged, I can pull them up? I studied in a school which was funded by government. It was a convent school. I don't come from a family. I have 5 sisters and brothers. My father comes from a very conservative background from Mathura, where
They're from UP,
where they feel that 18 saal ki umar mein shaadi kara do. Probably I would have had to give up on my education if there was no free education. People grudge free education. We've come to a generation where we grudge free education given to poor people. I was studying with those people who could not afford their uniform. So I know what empathy does and what inclusion does. So I will fight that fight. So today, that platform that I have been given, I will continue to fight for a more equal space for all. I don't want to take anything away from your family. I don't want to take away your money. But I want to ensure that the money you're giving to the government is directed in a way that it benefits those who don't have it.
And the trolling that comes with it, how do you tackle that?
Can't do anything about it. It used to impact me earlier, but now I start feeling uneasy if I'm not getting trolled. I'm like, मैंने लगता है कुछ ज़्यादा ही अच्छा लिख दिया या मैंने कुछ ऐसा लिख दिया जहाँ people will start thinking I'm becoming
you think there's women specific trolling?
Absolutely. They challenge, they question your IQ, they challenge your ability to perform, your ability to understand basic economics, your ability to understand tech, digital spaces.
You think you're attacked for not looking after your home well?
Or that I don't think comes into the picture at all.
Yeah.
I think that mindset has moved on.
That's moved
where
on.
Where people say, okay, if Priyanka's here, I'm sure that she has ensured that there's someone who's looking after her children. So I don't think that comes from a point of attack. But yes, when I was putting in a lot of work hours, people used to kind of out of concern tell me that, hello, look at going home and spending some time with the kids. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But it doesn't become
a point of
gender
trolling. Specific in that.
No, there's no point of trolling. The trolling comes from, does she have the bandwidth? Does she have the capacity? Does she have the knowledge?
Which wouldn't happen to a man.
Man comes with अरे ये तो मुझे बचपन से ही पता था, मैं तो पैदा ही हुआ था इस नॉलेज से. So that sense of confidence that they speak with versus those women who think before, okay, can I speak on this issue? Am I confident on speaking this issue? Many times I've told women members of parliament who come and tell me कि Priyanka तू इतना बिंदास बोल देती है and all that on some issues. I said only when you speak and you're mocked will you correct yourself. If you don't speak at all, nobody knows what your thought is. So just go ahead, speak
Be
your
natural.
mind. People will mock you, they will troll you, they will say laugh at you. But big deal. We learn from it. All learn from it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thanks.
much for joining us
Thank
today.
you so much for having me.
Yeah. If you like this episode, please follow us on all our social media handles. They're all listed below. And please like, share, and subscribe.